نبلا على حبيبك خير خلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching The Right Path. I'm your host Huda Shah. Laughter is oftentimes considered the best medicine. And it's true as well. A study shows that having a good sense of humor can actually help you in fighting illnesses and diseases as well. And giving people a reason to smile is a form of charity as well. But it is also important to realize when our sense of humor becomes ridicule and mockery of someone else, and where to draw a line in that regard. In conversation with Dr. Kanwal Kaisar about what humor is in terms of Islam and Sunnah. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahiba, how are you?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah.
So, Dr. Kanwal, what are the boundaries that needs to be set in order to not fall into the category of ridicule and mockery, and what is the appropriate way of going about humor?
This is very, very important because nowadays we have taken everything for granted and trying to create humor everywhere.
Exactly.
Like, I should sound like a very witty person. We need to look into the age of the people. Like if someone is older than me, my senior, or somehow there is an element of respect that has to be there. So I need to be cautious over there, like always, what kind of jokes I'm cracking in those environments. Then the cultural norms have to be remembered. Then the status of the person is also important. Also, sometimes something might not be very significant for me, but it is important for other people, and I don't want to break the heart of the people just because I think, oh, I'm cracking a joke over here. And then sometimes people, when they are creating humor, it's like sort of a double meaning added to whatever they are saying. So that is also very, very important, that we need to be very, very, I would say, critical for ourselves, that what I'm saying, how I'm saying, it has to be done the right way.
And intelligently as well.
Yes.
Exactly. And you rightly said that it is very important to take into account the situation we are in, the people we are referring to, our beliefs and our customs, and the other persons as well, because we cannot just be ignorant of the fact that maybe something is funny to us but not to the other person.
But also, Rida, if you look around in these times, we find the kind of jokes people crack, like they're so dirty that you don't want to be indulged in that kind of conversation, or they are pointing to someone's, it's like a body shaming attitude that people have, then name calling, or we create aspects of racism. And similarly, I have seen parodies or making someone sound so idiotic.
Exactly.
And these are not the right norms, or these are not the things that should be practiced by a believer. And sometimes we lie about something, and when somebody doesn't like it, we say, oh, I was just kidding, I was just joking.
Yeah.
And oh, you need to have some sense of humor. Why are you getting so upset about my joke? It was just a simple joke.
Exactly. People guise the lies underneath a joke. That is what my next question was going to be, that sometimes people often lie about certain situations just to sound humorous, but they don't realize that it is causing their integrity to crumble. And it is not the practice of the Holy Prophet as well, because the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, he himself had a good sense of humor, but he never used to lie in all of that. So can you interlink both of them and teach our viewers the way to go about it when it comes to humor?
What we learn from the life of the Prophet ﷺ is that the companions used to say that he was the most smiling person we ever came across. And when I look at his life's timeline, he lost his father before he was born, he lost his mother when he was very young, then the guardianship went to his grandfather, he lost him, then he was taken care of by his uncle, and later on he faced so many challenges in his life, and even in his lifetime he lost his sons as well as daughters, except Fatima radiallahu anha. And still imagine that with all the challenges and all his personal life challenges as well, and also the responsibilities that he had, he was very smiling person. So this brings us to the point that we need to understand what actually is having humor in your life, having that sense of refreshing yourself in your life. When you get up in the morning, you don't say, I hate Monday.
Yes.
You don't put up that status on the social media. What you actually do is you say, Alhamdulillah, Allah has given me another day. And when you look at your family members, you're like, oh, I can't stand my nagging brother or sister. Oh, my mom, she's again going to start her sermon. We don't have feelings like that in our heart. We are happy to see our family members. When we come to our workplace, yes, there are sometimes toxic elements over there. Again, we are full of energy, full of zeal. We want to facilitate people. We want to put in our best in our work.
Exactly.
So this is the kind of sense of humor that we need to carry with ourselves. So if we remember the right parameters, because in our society, as I said earlier, it's either you are just laughing, that is like laughing out loud,
Exactly.
or you are just ridiculing
Lying.
other people, or you are lying. So no, we need to understand, we need to develop that taste, what Islam teaches us. There is a lot of eloquence in this sense of humor that you carry as a believer.
Exactly, and I think that is very important to identify now that, okay, what is the difference between good humor and bad humor?
Bad humor is something which is going to not only affect the other person, but also you would be affected by it, because people wouldn't like to hang out with you.
Exactly.
People would like to avoid you. And something where, as I said, there's body shaming, or you're ridiculing other person, or you're causing that person to carry a lot of self-esteem challenges, because you come across people who say, my self-esteem is so low, and then at the very same time we expect that, you know, if someone is going humorous and being very critical of you, you just simply accept it.
Accept that.
So no, we should not accept that. And I usually tell people that if you are offended by anyone's humor, in a very polite, nice manner, you should tell them that I thought that you were trying to crack a joke, but I did not appreciate it. And I would appreciate that if you talk to me in a decent manner. And yes, we can joke about something, but not like these personal traits which are very, very touchy for me.
Exactly.
So sometimes people say, oh, you minded that, I didn't mean to say it. So you can say, okay, I would appreciate if next time you're going to be careful. So we don't know how the choice of words. Sometimes we just then snap back on those people, or we think of another nasty ways of reacting to whatever they said to us. So rather than that, we need to put a stop in a nicer way.
And draw a line.
Draw a line, and also at the same time, if we practice those traits where we talk in a humorous manner, we use our wits, but in a very decent, dignified manner, we make people laugh, we make people enjoy our company, but at the very same time, we don't follow those norms which are existing in the society. We follow the norms that we get from Quran and Sunnah.
Exactly. So in light of that, the norms in Quran and Sunnah, we will come to it later. Let's just address this current contemporary issue, that is YOLO, like you only live once, right? So underneath that pressure, I believe there's a lot of pressure on the younger generation to enjoy every moment in your life. But it is also said that excessive laughter makes your hearts a little strong, hardens your heart.
It hardens your heart.
Yes, exactly. That's the saying, that excessive laughter hardens your heart. So in light of that, in light of the YOLO culture that is present in our society, and this excess of everything is bad, so how would you combine both of them and give our viewers an insight on how to adopt a middle way in all of that?
Whenever some youngster says to me about this concept of YOLO, I say, in a way you are right, because you only live once in this life. Quran tells us that once we are gone, then we will be having a lot of regrets. And we would want to go back in this life and change many things, change many situations, change many of our responses in different relationships. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be giving us another chance. Like in this life, we have another opportunity. So YOLO, yes, we will not be given another chance. So we need to be wise. Rather than saying, oh, because this is life which I'm given once, let me enjoy it. No, take it the life where this is like your exam time. This is like your testing ground.
Exactly.
And perform the best over here. And yes, there are going to be moments when you will be in the hereafter rewarded for that. And that's when, you know, you can have those moments, lighter moments, more than your time when you're tested more. Because a lot of time people also say that we already have so many troubles in our life, let us at least laugh for a while.
Exactly.
Let us at least enjoy our life. But a lot of things that we pick for humor, for smiling, for laughter, they are not even appropriate from worldly standards.
Exactly. And we should be mindful of that. We should not.
Sometimes we hear about these celebrities and people who had been laughing on the social media and ultimately they committed suicide.
Yeah.
And we get these images and the saying says, this is the face of a person who's going through depression or anxiety. So when you are laughing or when you are creating humor, it has to come from inside. It has to actually enlighten you from inside.
Exactly. It just not have to be a show that you're presenting in front of the world. It should be something that actually makes you happy and contented as well.
And Rida, I've seen that a lot of people are afraid to be religious because they're fun-loving.
Okay.
And they want to get the best out of life. And when they sometimes look at religious people and they feel that they're too serious for them, and their attitude towards life is also extremely serious. So then they sort of feel repelled and they feel that it's better that when I'm going to be their age, in my
Then
40s and 50s, then
yeah.
I'm going to read Quran and then I'll become more particular about my religious values. That is why it is important that we dig and explore more into the life of the Prophet ﷺ and see how people used to enjoy his company. Like early morning after the Fajr prayer and after making all the du'as and recitation of Quran, he would hang out with all his companions and they will be narrating all the stories and they'll be coming to him for the interpretations of the dream and they'll be cracking jokes and they'll be laughing, and the Prophet ﷺ would be listening to them and he would have a big smile on his face. It's like, you know, you are just cherishing and enjoying those moments.
Yes.
And he would be guiding them and correcting them at the same time. So it is also very, very important for us people who carry this flag of being the religious people and guiding people.
Yes.
We need to have the right parameters for us. Like we need to have the lighter side of, we need to show people the lighter side of Islam, but again with the right parameters.
Exactly. But I think you manage that pretty well. Because I've been having this conversation with you, you always tend to make things a little interesting by adding a little humor to it, or making things a little contemporary by using a certain lingo that is more, I think, relatable with people like me. And I think you on that end, you're doing a great job because you're, I think, balancing both of these things out, where you're very firm about your beliefs and the principles that the Islam teaches, but you're also on the humorous side as well. Okay,
I think I had been blessed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me such teachers.
Right.
That they actually taught me Quran in such a manner that be principled, but at the very same time practice what is there in the life of the Prophet.
Because you're very right about this, that people often get repelled because they have this mindset that, okay, Islam is a very serious religion and the minute you enter it, you're going to be obliged, you're going to be obedient, and there's nothing left to enjoy
stop
anymore.
laughing and stop having fun.
Stop
and
having fun.
Eating something nice
Exactly.
and stop wearing something which is pretty. No, we need to draw the lines and we need to understand. Basically, it's about setting your priorities. So our priority in life is not to be humorous, not to be a sitcom professional. Our priority has to be doing the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, serving the humanity in the best possible manner, learning from our skills and then benefiting the society with that skills, and making people Allah conscious, creating this this environment where people are aware of the power of the Creator and understanding our limitations as creation and what we owe to do in this life. That is our main priority.
Exactly.
But yes, again, as I said, and I keep repeating that, lighter moments are required and they were there in the life of the Prophet and we need to practice them as well.
Exactly. And when I was doing research for this program, I came across this example of Prophet, peace be upon him, when an old woman approached him and she asked him whether she will go to Jannah or not. And the Prophet said, oh no, you won't go to the
He
Jannah.
said the older women won't go to
Won't
Jannah.
go to the Jannah. Yes, can you tell us this story?
There was this lady who came to him and she said, will I go to Jannah? And he said, no, the older ladies won't go to Jannah.
Yeah.
So she's like left and she was crying, and then when people asked him, Ya Rasulullah, you never make a blunt remark like that.
Yeah.
And how could you say that to this lady? And she's crying now. Hearing from you, it's like a big thing. So he just smiled and he said, I didn't make any mistake or any error. I did say that this lady, if she goes to Jannah, she is going to be young and pretty. So she won't be an older lady over there. So it's like, you know, how he presented it. There's so many stories when he would be sitting with his companions or even with his wives,
Yes.
how he would be interacting and he would create those lighter moments.
Exactly.
Like once it was a battlefield situation, and he was in his tent, and one of the companion was coming, and he was like, is a big size person. So when he said that, can I come in, I want to meet you, and when the Prophet said, yes, walk in, and he said, should I come fully or should I come in parts?
Okay.
Because he was big size. So the Prophet ﷺ said, smiled and said, come fully. So
Okay.
he came all in all. So these are like, small stories where they would laugh, and there's not going to be any lie in it. There is not going to be something which is away from reality.
Exactly.
So it will be part of the reality, but they would be enjoying it.
So I think the condition for humor is that it should be attached to reality.
Yes.
It should not be a lie. It should not be based on a lie.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, that Prophet, peace be upon him, used to have a humorous relationship with his wives as well. But we in South Asian culture fail to see that in our relationships. Even if I look at my parents, they're always very serious towards each other. And
Yeah.
I think this is a very common occurrence in most of the households. So how important do you think humor and fun element is in terms of homemaking?
It is so important because as husband and wife, you are dealing with so many challenges. So it dries up your relationship.
Exactly.
And you're focusing too much on children and day-to-day needs, your groceries, your bills, your utilities. So if you're talking to each other, even if like for a few minutes, and you like create that sense of, you use that sense of humor and wit to enrich your relationship, that would be really, really nice. Like we remember that once we find out that the Prophet ﷺ, he was walking with Aisha Radhiyallahu Anha, and she said, let's race. So they started running, and she won the race because she was very young and she was very petite. Ultimately, after many years, when she had gained little weight, so Prophet ﷺ remembered that time, and he said, Aisha, do you want to have another race with me? And she said, why not? And this time she lost the race. So the Prophet ﷺ looked at her, laughed, and he said, I won this time.
Yeah.
And I made up for that loss. So they both laughed. So these are the kind of lighter moments that you can have where you are enjoying each other. Like nowadays we find everyone glued to their screens.
Exactly.
And enjoying the jokes which are turning you against your own spouses, because the jokes are targeting your spouses. If a wife said to the husband and husband said this, and there's a lot of vulgarity in them and a lot of relationship trauma in them. Similarly for the between different other relationships. But rather than that, what we need to do is make picnic baskets or hang out with our family. And even these days now, in the month of Ramadan, when we sit with them for iftar and for suhoor, and when we are having food, when we are making duas, so we could be smiling. We could be like again thinking how we can show our wit over here, where we enrich the whole environment. Because sometimes when you sit with people who are laughing and have sense of humor, it helps you gel with them.
Exactly.
It helps you connect with them. So that is why it is very, very important.
And I think having good sense of humor is also something that can help you preach a message as well.
Yes.
Because if you're not adding any interesting element to the conversation that you're having with someone, people will lose interest. And I think that is something that you mentioned very early in this conversation, that in order to be a religious scholar such as yourself, religious preacher, expert, it is very important that you inculcate these kind of humor elements in your speech as well, so that people are more inclined towards listening to you, and because that is something that stays in your mind as well. So I remember from my personal example, all the teachers who used to teach me back in bachelor's, whenever they used humor during their lectures, it used to stick with me, and it used to have an impact on my understanding of the subject as well. So in terms of all of that, I think humor is necessary.
Apart from that, whenever we are working, we are studying, we are involved in serious activities, so we have, from the scientific perspective, we have all those toxic negative neurotransmitters, they add within our the system. So we need to get them out, and there are various ways of getting them out, like when we eat healthy and we exercise and we sleep on time. And apart from that, humor is one thing that which lightens up, which takes away that load of those negativity and negative effects which are around us. So yes, it is very, very important. But we also need to remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also guided us that when it's about opposite gender, you can have a conversation with them, but at the very same time, you need to be very, very calculated in your sense of humor with them. And we can see sometimes when we are sitting with our colleagues, same-sex colleagues, we're not even talking to them. And on the opposite end, when we are talking to the opposite genders, we are cracking so many jokes and we are all smiles. So our religion tells us that no, over there also we need to follow a certain standard and boundary. Because you can see that because of the using wit over there, sometimes people develop crushes, sometimes people, they go into those haram relationships as well, sometimes even between spouses when there are misunderstandings created. This is because you don't laugh with me.
Yeah, you
You
laugh
don't
with
smile.
someone
You're
else.
smiling towards your secretary or your colleague in the office, and how come you're doing that? And obviously, when there are problems at home, and then there's a colleague who is smiling and laughing with you, so definitely you'll develop a soft corner and a lot of complications in your own relationship. So
Okay.
humor and sense of humor has to be used in the right places, in the right amount, in the right way.
Time. Yes, that is, I think, something to think about, because I think usually we don't look into these kind of things. We're like, okay, no, we're just having fun and it's a safe space, and it's okay if you're sometimes, you know, you're talking about good things, but you don't realize if this will have an impact on someone else's life and actually ruin it in the longer sense as well. So I think the takeaway from this majorly is to use the humor at the right time, at the right place, with the right person.
Yes.
And one should be very mindful of that as well. So now if we talk about the importance of spreading smiles, because I think in our society where there's so much negativity, where there's so much, and especially in the COVID-19 situation,
is.
where there is no light at the end of the tunnel. We know there's a vaccine, but every day we hear so many sad news about people losing their lives. So what kind of behavior should we adopt in light of such a situation?
One thing that we have to understand is that smiling at your brothers is considered to be a charity, a sadaqah. So yes, we should be there for all those people who are suffering, and we should not be creating lighter moments around them, so that, you know, giving them this impression that we have
don't care.
apathy, we don't care about your suffering. But at the very same time, by large, when you go around, you talk to people, because I remember a couple of years back when I started going to a park for the morning walk with my friend, and we will encounter so many ladies on the way. Even when you go for some hiking or so, you come across so many people and they have such a blank look on their face. They come face to face to you. No salam, no greeting, no smile, and you feel, why can't we smile at each other?
Exactly.
And what me and my friend we did was we started smiling at all the ladies who would come face to us. Initially they just gave us this look, do I know you?
Yeah.
Why are you smiling at me? And then they realized we are doing it because it is something that we learned from Islam. So within days we all became friends. We'll be doing our own walk, but at the same time we'll look at each other and we'll just greet each other. So this is the kind of culture we need to create in all the places where we're interacting with people, like a positivity, a positive message through our body language, our smile, our care, our gentleness.
Right. And in light, a follow-up question to that is that if you're smiling all the time, you cannot, basically some people just repress their emotions so much that they always have a smile on their face whenever they face anyone, and you know, people think they have no problems in their life. So do you think that is like acceptable behavior, or you should always be mindful of the feelings you're going through and behave according to that? Or is it just because...
I would second you on the second part of it, that be mindful of your emotions, and if you are sometimes not feeling like smiling or laughing, you don't have to present yourself to be smiling and laughing all the time.
Right.
But like when we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, he used to have appropriate emotions in all the places. There were moments when he would cry. There were moments when he would be angry and his face would turn red, but obviously he wouldn't speak anything which is nasty. And then there are moments when he smiled. So we need to again understand what are the situations where we can smile, and then there are other times when I'm not up to it, and there is nothing wrong with it if you don't feel like giving your best shot in that relationship at that moment. But yes, if you feel that because of your mood swings, there are people around you who are suffering, so, and you don't want to explain to them whatever you're going through, you can just tell them that this is my bad day, and
Yeah.
I need little break from whatever I'm doing. I'm not being unthankful or ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I just need a little break from my usual self that I am.
Yes, okay. So you can excuse yourself
Yes.
at days, and there's no pressure to always be smiling.
Yeah.
You can actually, you have
Because
to be
we don't
real.
have to hide behind a smile. It shouldn't be
Okay.
a curtain for us. It should be a genuine smile which comes from inside when you acknowledge all the blessing. But if you have some serious challenges, address them,
Exactly.
so that you have a genuine smile at the end of the day after you have gone through addressing and resolving your challenges.
Exactly. And if we talk about a setup, a joint family setup, how important do you think having good sense of humor is in such a setting where, you know, you come across relationships that are a little complicated, and where to, I think, draw a line when it comes to having being with your sister-in-law or your brother-in-law, and, you know, in-laws relationship, and having a sense of humor or smiling, or your
It is important, Rida, it's important everywhere, wherever the relationship is. Like sometimes when your kids are in teenage and they would come to you and say, oh, I hate you because you're not letting me do this, 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 this. So if you have a good sense of humor, you can say, but I love you, and I'll
Okay.
still stick to what I'm doing. So then you don't leave your kids or your near and dear ones option to say something nasty in return. And similarly, when you're living with your in-laws, if your mother-in-law wants you to go and fetch her another cup of tea or make you a roti, and she's not happy with the spices that you have added to the salan, so all you have to do is just smile and say, I'm so sorry, auntie or mom, and I'll make up for it. That's all you have to say, rather than having a long face and giving this body language attitude that God, she's always picking on me. Because our mothers, our own mothers and sisters also sometimes are critical of us.
Exactly.
But we accept that and we move on. But we have somehow, living in the society, we're accepting of the in-laws, and whatever treatment they give us is very difficult.
Right.
So that is what we have to be very cautious about.
Yeah, so basically you can kind of, it is sort of undermining the other person's response in a way that you do not pick a fight with them.
Yes.
Like
I will
you
also
said.
give the same advice to the mother-in-laws, because mother-in-laws are like in the older age group.
Yes.
And sometimes they are tired, sometimes they have their, other health challenges. So they're not able to smile because of that. And sometimes it is interpreted by the daughter-in-law that maybe she doesn't like me. So again, if you have a smile on your face, you act like a mentor, a coach, welcoming that girl in your
Exactly.
family, so it will be beneficial for you in your relationship.
Exactly, and I think that will also help you if you're being cordial with your daughter-in-law, if you're being very respectful, if you're talking to them in a humorous manner. I think that will go a long way for both of the relationship, and I think the daughter-in-law will have that thing in her head that, okay, this woman is my mother-in-law, she's being so nice to me. So I think they will have this sense of responsibility to give back. And I think a small act of kindness, a small smile, a small witty statement can go a long way as well.
It does.
And on this note, we'll conclude today's transmission. We've run out of time. So, but a very interesting conversation that was going on the importance of sense of humor and spreading smiles in our society. We talked about how Prophet, peace be upon him, inculcated this very feature in his personality, and how he always stick to the truth no matter what. He never lied in order to make people laugh, and that is what we need to understand as well. We need not to fall into the clutches of mockery and ridicule in order to sound happy, in order to make ourselves seem as funny people. No, this is not the way. You can actually inculcate positive aspects of it and be a happy, humorous person. On this note, I'll bid you farewell. Allah Hafiz.
وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير خلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما